欢迎回来. My journey to learn Zhongwen continues, and I'm so glad to be able to share it with you. If you're wondering why my background has changed from the previous episodes, it's because from this episode onwards, I'll be sharing the next set of 33 new characters. As I create sentences and stories using these new characters and words, I will still keep using the previous words so that I keep practicing them and not forget them. I thought it would be useful for you to include in the description links to words that are covered in other episodes. So if you need to do a bit of revision, you can just click on the link and quickly jump to that specific section in that episode. Let's get started with the first 6 characters. But before that, if you haven't already, remember to click on the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. Here are the 6 characters: jin, zhēn, gao, xìng, néng, zi. So the first character is jin. The meaning of jin is present or now, and the most common way I've used it is to say 今天, which is today. 今天. Another common word using jin is tonight. 今晚. And a third way to use jin is to say nowadays. And the way to express nowadays is 先进. Let me put the pinyin. So let's make up some sentences and see how I can use 今天, 今晚, and 现进. So 今天 is pretty easy. I'm recording this right now, Tuesday, and I'm making this up. Today is Tuesday, but every Tuesday I have morning shift. Not quite true, but I'm just making it up so that I can practice expressing every and morning shift, which we covered in some of the previous episodes. So let's translate this into 中文. Today we just learned 是今天 is 是 Tuesday 是星期二. Let me put on the pinyin. 今天是星期二. We learned how to say the word every back in chapter 20. Every 是每. So now I want to say every Tuesday. 每个星期二. And what do I do every Tuesday? I have morning shift. I 是我. I 上早班. 早班 was a word we learned back in chapter 21 when we learned the word 早 and combining it with 班是早班是 morning shift. Let's put on the pinyin and have a look at it again. 每个星期二我上早班. Now let's make a sentence using tonight. How about we ask a question? Shall we have dinner together tonight? Now there's quite a bit going on with this sentence. Firstly, it's a question. I need to be able to formulate a question in Zhongwen. And we're combining dinner and a new word which we covered in a previous episode together. To express this in Zhongwen, I would probably do it this way. I'll start by saying 今晚 tonight. We have dinner together. So we 是我们. Dinner 是晚餐. And then to say together 是一起, which you gotta go back to episode 21 to have a look at that. So let's combine all that together. 我们一起吃晚餐 dinner. I haven't made it into a question yet, so to convert it to a question, I can say 好吗? Oops, wrong 好吗? 好吗? There we go. That's the correct one. Shall we have dinner together tonight? 今晚我们一起吃晚餐好吗? 今晚我们一起吃晚餐好吗? 你要吃什么呢? Okay, the third word is 先进 to say nowadays. So in English, I could say something like, nowadays, all my friends like to exercise, which is really true because everyone's been locked down for like months and months. So let's translate this sentence into 中文. I'm kind of going to do it the same way as I did in English and start with 先进. 我的朋友 my friends, but I want to say it a bit more. It's all of my friends. So one way to do that is to put the word 都, which kind of means all. 我的朋友都 like to. So like to 是喜欢 which we learned back in episode 20. 喜欢 And what do they like to do? They like to exercise. Exercise 是运动 also covered in the same episode 20. So 喜欢运动 Pop on the 拼音 and let's read that back. 现今我的朋友都喜欢运动。Okay, the second character we have is zhēn. Zhēn means real or really, and there are three ways we can use zhēn. The first one is just on its own to say if something is real or to ask if something is real, like really, are you sure? That kind of meaning. The second way to use zhēn is 认真. The meaning of 认真 is serious. A third word example with 真是天真 which means naive. Okay, let's make up some sentences using 真, 认真 and 天真. Do you still remember my new friends, Dr. Lee and Mrs. Lee, and how Mrs. Lee really loves braised beef? In fact, she really eats it every night. So how do I say this in 中文? Mrs. Lee 是李太太. And what does 李太太 do? She eats braised beef, so 她吃红烧牛肉. And when does she eat it? 每天 Well, not 每天, 每晚. 每是 every, 晚是 night. So I need to move this around. I'm gonna move this to the front. And I want to say, she really eats it every night. 真的吗？真的。真的每晚吃红烧牛肉。李太太真的每晚吃红烧牛肉。That's seriously how much she likes it. And in response, someone could say, really? Are you sure? I mean, that's just crazy. How can you eat braised beef every night? You can express in 中文 like so. 真的吗？真的吗 is the same as saying really in English. And how would you respond to 真的吗? You could say 真的 exclamation mark. 她 female 她很喜欢什么？吃红烧牛肉。Let's switch on the 拼音 first. 真的，她很喜欢吃红烧牛肉。Really? She really likes braised beef! Exclamation mark. Next, I'm gonna try and make up a sentence using the word serious and naive. Since we're talking about Mrs. Lee, let's speak about her daughter. If you have been 学习中文 together with me, you may have been following the story of 李医生和李太太。他们的女儿是林。So Mrs. Lee's daughter is Lin. 她是 naive teenage girl. And I think a few episodes ago, we learned that Lin wants to go study medicine in Beijing University, and she's very serious about it. Okay, so let's translate this to 中文. So the first part is Mrs. Lee's daughter Lin, 这是李太太的女儿 Lin, is a naive teenage girl. We can say 是一位. Okay, to refer to a person, and she is a naive teenage girl. So let's start with teenage girl. Teenage girl we learned back in episode 18 是shàonű. And what kind of a teenage girl is she? She is a naive one. So 她是一位天真少女。Let's have a look at the whole sentence. 李太太的女儿林是一位天真少女。Okay, that looks right. Now let's have a look at the second half of the sentence. 林要什么？林要学。She wants to study. What does she want to study? Medicine. Medicine 是医学。Where does she want to do it? At Beijing University. So 在北京大学 So this should be a familiar sentence. We've expressed something like this before in the previous episodes. 林雕学医学在北京大学 But I want to say that she's very serious about it. So I will have to add that adjective somewhere in the beginning here. 认真林认真要学医学在北京大学We have Gao. Gao is quite straightforward. It just means tall or high. Word examples using Gao are 高大, 高中, and 高手. 高大 is quite straightforward. Gao we now know as tall. Da, big. So 高大 someone or something that is really tall or very high. 高中 is interesting. It actually means high school. Back in episode 18, where we were studying the character 学, we learned 大学, which is university, and also 中学, which is secondary school. So here we're learning another word to describe the type of school, 高中, which is high school. The third word example using 高是高手. 手 is a hand. This word means an expert or a master. Okay, let's try and make up some sentences. Let me think of an example. Okay, let's go with this. Do you still remember Zhang-San? If you have been following the last few episodes, Zhang-San 是林的男朋友. Here I'm combining a few things. Zhang-San is really tall, so we covered just a few minutes ago how to say really. 真 So I'm going to add 真. During high school, Zhang-San really liked physical education. Physical education 是体育, which we covered in episode 21. And his teacher, 他的老师, is an exercise expert. Okay, so let's have a go at translating this into 中文. Zhang-San is really tall. tall 是高大. 真高大. So in this case, this sentence is just me expressing, gosh, Zhang-San is really tall. So during high school, I could say 中学, which is secondary school, or I can say 高中. So I'm going to go with 高中. 高中是, so during high school, Zhang-San, like we know, is 喜欢, but really like 是真喜欢. Physical education class 是体育课. His teacher, 他的male 他 so I'm gonna pick this one. 他的老师 is an exercise expert. 就是一位exercise 是运动 expert 是高手. Snap pinyin. Okay, let's read that back and check that it's correctly translated and see how it sounds. So here we go. 张三真高大，高中时张三真喜欢体育课，他的老师是一位运动高手。Next we have xìng. This character can be used in two ways. The first one is in the fourth tone, which means high spirits or interest, or generally being excited about something. The second form of this character is pronounced in the first tone, xìng, which means to rise or flourish. Let's have a look at word examples using xìng, pronounced in the fourth tone. 高兴 高兴 means happy or glad. 我真高兴可以跟你们学习中文. Let's pop the pinyin on first. 我真高兴可以跟你们学习中文. What do you think I just wrote? 我 is me, I. 真 we just covered is really. 高兴是 happy or glad. So I'm really glad 可以跟你们 together with you guys 学习中文. So what are we doing together? We're learning Chinese together. I'm really glad to learn Chinese together with you guys. Truly I am. 我真的很高兴可以跟你们学习中文. Now let's have a look at xìng in the first tone, which means to rise or flourish. The word example using xìng 是兴隆. Xinglong is a very common expression to wish someone's business to prosper or to flourish. We often hear this during auspicious moments. So let's say if your friend launched a new business or a new shop, you may wish that their new business would flourish, and you would say something like this. 祝你生意兴隆. 祝你生意兴隆, which means wishing your business to prosper. So the next time you attend an opening ceremony of a business, you may want to say this to the owners of that new business. 祝你生意兴隆. Next up we have néng, pronounced in the second tone, and néng generally means physically able to do something or a situation allows for something to happen. First word example using néng is néng itself you can use on its own. You can use it to ask, can you do something? Are you able to do something? Or is it possible to do something? A sentence example using néng could be as simple as this. 你能出来吃饭吗? 你能出来吃饭吗? So what do you think this sentence is, or this question is? 你能, can you? 出来, come out. 吃饭 is to eat. Can you come out to eat? Sounds a bit crude. I suppose we should say, can you come out and have dinner with me? But it's basically a simple way to say, can you come out and have a meal with me? Often I hear this very, very simple and short question. 你能不能? It's a very straightforward question, which simply means, can you? And it could be anything. Can you do that? Can you come out? Can you get this for me? Can you do this for me? Are you able to do that? 你能不能? Can you? Are you able to? A second word example using 能是能力. Li, it means strength. So combining 能 with li is ability. A third word example using 能 is 体能. Ti, we learned in chapter 21, refers to the body. 体能 is literally the ability of the body. It means stamina. So let's make up some sentence examples to use 能力 and 体能 to have a look at how we can use it. So Lin has been learning Japanese, and here I just want to say that her ability to learn and absorb 日文 is awesome. Lin learn Japanese 是学习日文, and I know awesome 是太好, which we learned way back in episode 17. So I've got Lin, I've got 学习日文, I've got 太好. Now I need to figure out how to fit in 能力. Chinese is a little bit different from English. Here, 能力 will have to come after 学习. Lin 学习日文能力太好. Lin 学习日文能力太好. It does sound a little bit strange to me, but I think it still gets the meaning across. Now let's try and make up a sentence to describe stamina. Now if you do recall, 李医生和李太太, they love to exercise, 每天运动. If you exercise every day, I believe their stamina must be really good. 李医生和李太太 is Dr. Li and his wife. So exercise 是运动, every day 是每天. But in 中文 we have to pop the 每天 in front of the 运动. So 每天运动. 他们的 stamina 是体能 is really good. So there are several ways I can express is really good. I know good 是好. I can say awesomely good as in 太好. Or I can say extremely good, 非常好. Or I can say 真好. So let's use 真好 since that's the word that we're learning in this episode. Pinging please. Let's read that back together and check that I've done it correctly. 李医生和李太太每天运动，他们的体能真好。The the last character 是子. I find it very challenging to pronounce pinyin with Z's in the front, followed by I. So I hope I'm saying it as accurately as possible. This is said in the fourth tone. 知, 子, 子, 自. That sounds much more accurate. 知 means self or originating from. Word examples using 自 are 自学. I love this one because this is kind of like what you and I are both doing right now. 自 is myself, 学 is to learn. So this is self-study or self-learn. 现在我自学中文，你也自学中文，是吗？ Second example using 自是来自，来是 come. 自 is from, 来自是 come from. Now in this case, I think it refers to where a person originates from. And the third word example using 自是自从, which means ever since. When I was studying 自从, I had to think about it for a while because back in episode 21, we learned 重启, which is from something onwards. This one is a different way to use 从, which is 自从, which is ever since. From something onwards or ever since something. You know, in English, to me, it's quite similar. I think it's interchangeable whether you want to describe it as 自从 something or 从 something 起. So in this episode, we're going to learn how to use 自从. And if you need to do a little bit of revision on 重启, you need to hop back over to episode 21. Okay, so let's make up sentences to practice how to use these new words. Li Yisheng has a son, and we know from a few episodes ago that he is a music teacher, and he actually self-studied music for many years. Not unusual, many people are doing that these days, using YouTube to learn how to play instruments. So let's translate this into 中文. Li Yisheng 的儿子 is Dr. Li's son. Self-studied music, 自学. What's music? 音乐. For many years. Years 是年, many 是很多. Pinyin please. Okay, let's read that back. 李医生的儿子自学音乐很多年. Now there's a reason why I picked his son because this is a very tricky combination of words for me to pronounce. 儿子是 his son. 自学是 self-study. It's quite a tongue twister. Try it at home and say it several times till you get used to it. 李医生的儿子自学音乐很多年. 李医生的儿子自学音乐很多年. Let's make up a sentence to use 来自. Dr. Li actually comes from Beijing, so let's just say that. 李医生来自北京，中国。李医生来自北京，中国。That's pretty straightforward. Okay, let's move on to the more interesting one. 自从 ever since. Let's talk about Zhang-San. So if you've been following my story, so Zhang-San is Lin's boyfriend. Ever since Zhang-San went to Beijing to work, Lin seldom sees him. So how do we translate this into 中文? Okay. 自从张三去了北京工作. Okay, so I've got the first part. So ever since Zhang-San went to Beijing to work, Lin seldom means very rare. I can say 很少, very little. 细心看他. Pinyin. Okay, let's read that back and see how does it sound. 自从张三去了北京工作, Lin 很少看他. So that's 6 new characters and 17 new word combinations. Now it's time for 作文, and this is where I try to use as many of the new words as possible, and the way to do that is to write a story. And if you've been following the last few episodes, I've been telling a story about a doctor that I met, 他是李医生, and his family. So let's just continue meeting them and getting to know them. So here we go. Voila! We've been in lockdown for very long, and today was the first time I was able to come out to have dinner together with Dr. Lee and his wife, and I got to know them a little bit better. So let's have a go at translating this into 中文。今天 I'm very glad. 我很高兴。Okay, 我很高兴什么呢？ Able to come out. Able 是能 ，come out 是出来。To have dinner together with Dr. Lee. 吃晚餐 together with Dr. Lee. So I'll have to stick it in here. 跟李医生 and his family 和他的家人。拼音 and I've made it a little bit bigger so we can see the words. So let's have a look at the first sentence. 今天我很高兴能出来跟李医生和他的家人吃晚餐。Okay, let's have a look at the next sentence. So Dr. Lee comes from Beijing. So comes from 是来自，李医生来自 from Beijing. And his wife 他的太太 comes from 来自海口. Hai is sea, kou is mouth. If you know where Haikou is located, put in the comments below. They were high school friends, so they 是他们是高中朋友。李医生来自北京，他的太太来自海口，他们是高中朋友。So in this episode, we are learning to say 高中朋友 as a way to say that they were friends in school, in particular high school, 高中朋友. If you go back to episode 18, we learned another expression, 校友. 校友 is similar, it refers to schoolmates or alumni. We could also say 他们是校友, but in this case, they're specifically friends in high school. 不是大学, so directly I'm saying 高中朋友 high school friends. Next part, 在高中李医生是一位 what kind of person was he? A naive student. So student 是学生 which we covered in episode 18. So naive we learned in this episode 是天真 and Mrs. Lee, however, 李太太是一位 something something 学生. So what kind of a 学生 was she? She was a serious student. Serious 是认真 ever since high school. So ever since is 自从 when ever since high school. So 自从高中 they both like exercise. 他们都喜欢 exercise 是运动 and have really good stamina. So really 真 good 是好 and stamina 是体能 the ability of the body. That's how I remember this 体能. Okay, so I'm going to flip this around 体能真好拼音 Okay, let's have a read of this portion. 在高中，李医生是一位天真学生，李太太是一位认真学生。自从高中，他们都喜欢运动，体能真好。Okay, the next part. So let's break that down a bit. Mrs. Lee 是李太太。是什么 expert in traditional Chinese medicine. So traditional Chinese medicine 是中医 and expert 是高手. She's very tall. 她比人很高 very tall and really likes to eat rice beef. 真喜欢吃 and what does she like? 红烧牛肉她能自己吃 eat a plate. So I can say 一盘红烧牛肉拼音 Okay, let's read that back. 李太太是中医高手，她很高，正喜欢吃红烧牛肉，她能自己吃一盘红烧牛肉。And the last bit is I congratulated them. 我祝贺他们在马来西亚的生意兴隆。我 祝贺他们在马来西亚的生意兴隆。Okay, all done. Let's read that back from the beginning and check that it's translated correctly and it sounds correct. 今天我很高兴能出来跟李医生和他的家人吃晚餐。李医生来自北京，他的太太来自海口，他们是高中朋友。在高中，李医生是一位天真学生，李太太是一位认真学生。自从高中，他们都喜欢运动，体能真好。李太太是中医高手，她很高，真喜欢吃红烧牛肉。她能自己吃一盘红烧牛肉。我祝贺他们在马来西亚的生意兴隆。谢谢大家。Do have a go at using the new characters and words while they're still fresh in your head. Share with me in the comments below a sentence or story using the words that we learned in this episode. I hope you have enjoyed learning with me and I'll see you in the next episode. 下集见。